What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome back to the Indie Sooner YouTube channel, the JP and Trav Show. As always, it's your boy JP. And below me, I got my esteemed co-host and brother, Travis Skoll. Trav, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Doing great. Good day of radio today. Getting ready to go to Lincoln. Excited.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we have a big friend of the show. You guys know him well. He's been on here more times than I can count. He's a brother as well. Ty, how you feeling, man?
Man, I'm always excited to be on. Thank y'all so much for having me. Travis, finally our Vikings came out week 1, looked inspired.
Never a doubt. Never a doubt. KOC's the man.
Yeah,
Jefferson running wide open. Green Bay deciding to run the interesting defense to just ignore one of the best receivers in the game.
I wasn't mad at it.
Maybe they thought it would confuse him by being too open, like it did their rookie receiver on the first play of the game. It confused him that he was that open, dropped the ball. Maybe that was Green Bay's strategy.
Absolutely. But hey, I'm not going to be mad at it. They can let Justin Jefferson run wild all they want, because if you drafted him in fantasy, you're feeling real good about where you're sitting.
I wish I would have got him.
Hey, I did. I got him fourth, one fantasy league, so I was happy.
RIP to all those that drafted C-Mac.
Right.
Didn't I could have better figure that out.
Yeah, jeez.
All right, guys. Well, welcome into the show. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, I will say, disclaimer. You guys know I'm a new father, so I'm at home alone with my daughter right now. My wife's having a little bit of a night off. I might have to pop out, just so y'all know. Okay. She's right here, so I'm not lying to y'all. I may have to pop out here and there, but I know my boys got me if I gotta pop out for a quick second. Hey, let's go ahead and hit this past week's game. OU defeated Kent State 33-3, moves to 2-0. I wanted to get your guys' impressions on the victory over Kent State. We'll start with Ty, just for a perspective from somebody that isn't as entrenched in OU as we are.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And look, the one thing I've been saying the first 2 weeks, if you're looking for perfection this early in the season, you're probably looking for the wrong thing. Teams are just still so much to figure out. And especially when you look at the Sooners, a team that has so much new. And even then, when I look at that game, yes, the offensive line, it's got to come together, but I don't know that I would say I'm too particularly worried about it, considering y'all still have pieces that aren't in yet that should be a massive help. Bill Bedenbaugh is Bill Bedenbaugh, right? That guy's earned the benefit of the doubt. No doubt about that. Schmitty being back, you love what's in the strength and conditioning room. We could talk about some things that maybe need to go a little bit better, but the way I look at it is early in the year, you had to make a little bit of an adjustment. You were able to do so. You hit the ground running after the little adjustment, and you were able to sail easy victory after that. That's what you love to see if you have a team with so much new still figuring it out. Okay, you hit a little snag. Can we make a quick adjustment and then hit the ground running like it never happened? The answer is yes. What a time to figure that out right before you have Nebraska, where they have nothing to lose coming into the game this weekend. So, look, I think Oklahoma right now, that offensive line gets a little bit more shored up. The guys get back. You've got so much in terms of skill at the wide receiver, running back position, and Dillon Gabriel. I just think he's such an exciting player to watch.
Yeah, I think it was a tale of two halves, obviously. My thing was going into this game, and I think we discussed it last week on the podcast, was we're keeping everything extremely vanilla. For people who wanted to come in and say, hey, look, Venables, man, I saw all these crazy schemes he ran, in the national title and when he was playing against Georgia, Clemson, all that kind of stuff. You want to keep that stuff hidden. You want to keep it off of film. So a team like Kansas State that looks really good offensively, a team like Texas that, went toe-to-toe with Bama, even though Bama shot themselves in the foot more than we've ever seen in the Saban era, it felt like. You've got Baylor coming to town. You've got Oklahoma State. You've got better teams coming to town than UTEP and Kent State. So naturally, you want to keep all that stuff off of film. So you're going to make it extremely vanilla. What we saw in the first half was the offense going as vanilla as it possibly could and not having much success. You saw defense go as vanilla as it could and have immense success. So we went from a little ice cream situation here. So you went straight vanilla, scoop of vanilla. That's all you had. We put like a drizzle of chocolate sauce on it and blew the game wide open, scored 31 straight. And we didn't add whipped cream, cherries, toasted nuts, caramel sauce. We didn't put it atop bananas. We didn't put it in a waffle cone. We didn't do none of that. We put a little bit of chocolate sauce on it and blew the thing wide open. So I think a couple things from that. UTEP or Kent State made us do a little bit of just throwing the ball to Marvin Mims. If that's really exotic, then it's going to be a pretty boring offense. I'm not sure that's as exotic as it's going to get. That's just, hey, we got a guy over there that's better than anybody you got on your team, so we're just going to force feed him the ball. Oh, look, we scored. So with that, I'm excited to see specifically going forward how many more layers we add to this, how many more ingredients we add to it, if you will. But I mean, the second half was about as good as football. That third quarter specifically, if we can put that quarter together for 4, there's not a team in the country that we can't play with. I mean, the defense looked great. We were getting turnovers. We were scoring at will. So I think the first half was just that. It was, let's see how vanilla we can get. Okay, we're not running the ball that well. Now use the pass to open up the run. You notice in the second half we ran the ball extremely well because you had to get those defenders to drop back into coverage so much that it opened up running lanes. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I can agree more with both of you. I mean, I got to go. Trav, I went over to TJ's house. He lives 15 minutes from me, so me and TJ watched the game together. We were just commenting. We're like, man, dude, people are all over Twitter freaking out right now in the first half. We were just like, patience, virtue, they'll figure it out. And with that last drive before halftime, as you said in your, I'll give a little teaser to talking with Girl Boy on OU Insider, as you said today, that was a spark that lit the flame in the third quarter. And so, to be able to see Levy make adjustments and, as you stated as well, not feel like he has to scheme a bunch of stuff and be this offensive mastermind and just use stuff that works, get it to your best player, take what the defense gives you. And that's exactly what they did, from the last minute of the second quarter into the third quarter. And, obviously they called it off a little bit in the fourth. They knew it was over at that point. No reason to risk anybody getting hurt.
Right.
And so the defense looked great. I mean, we'll get into our offensive and defensive MVPs here in a second, but obviously, Danny Stetson was a beast. He was everywhere. Reggie Grimes looked great again. And so, just thinking that we're just vanilla right now too, and seeing, the more aggression that we know is going to come, I think has me personally excited for what this team can do moving forward for sure.
Yeah, and if I could say something as well, one thing I think we need to keep in mind, Oklahoma's running some really difficult schemes, both offensively and defensively, right? Like these Jeff Levy's offense, I mean, there's layers. Trav, you put it best. There's layers in this, right? Defensively, Venables isn't coming with a scheme that you're going to pick up over the course of a month, right? Like that is an intricate, tried and true scheme. And so, one, you absolutely, if you don't have to put anything on film, you don't. And 2, they're learning a really advanced scheme within college football that everybody in the building is going to be better off for. So I think Oklahoma's well ahead of schedule, considering where, I mean, I don't need to tell either of you gentlemen, but where so many outside voices thought the Sooners would be. Now, I was in the camp of I didn't quite understand how that conclusion came to be, given the talent that's still on roster. But nonetheless, I mean, you have to look at the Sooners and feel very confident about where they are thus far, this early.
Right. A couple, just speaking to the early side of it, Obviously, the competition hasn't been insane, right? Kent State and UTEP aren't going to raise a lot of eyebrows. They'll each win some games this year. Kent State's going to win games. They were in their conference championship last year. They won their bowl game. They're very capable. But not a lot of teams have played juggernauts this year nationally, and OU leads the country in tackles for loss. I don't know the last time that happened through the first two games. They lead the country in tackles for loss. They are third in the country in sacks. Now, you pair that with a top 10 scoring defense right now at 8 points per game. You pair that with only giving up one touchdown in 2-game span. First time that's happened since 2013. And the craziest stat of them all, I put it out on Twitter, as far back as the turnover stats go in 1937, this is the first time in Sooner football history that OU has started their season with 2 games with 0 turnovers. That is a proud history. That is a blue blood top 3 program of all time history. First time ever, 0 turnovers for the first 2 games. So not only are we protecting the ball better than we ever have, but for the first time in a long time, we've stopped them whenever we do give them the ball. So a good recipe.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
That's insane. And let's real quick, Trav, I'll start with you, and then Ty. You don't have to if you don't. If you didn't really break down the game or watch it in totality, you don't have to. But if you have offensive and defensive MVPs from OU's game this week, go ahead and throw them in there. Trav, I'll let you go first.
I will take the easy ones on each. I'll make it a little harder on Ty. First, I've got Marvin Mims as the offensive MVP. He sets career record numbers after numbers he never touched as a freshman All-American. He is near the top. When you look at receivers that have had over 10 catches, obviously you have like a receiver here and there that have caught a 50-yard bomb or whatever. But receivers that have 10 or more catches, he has the highest yards per catch at 24.4 yards per catch. And now he's doing it on volume. It's different. Last year, he was ranked, I believe, 200th in receptions and second or third in yards per reception. So the question was going to be, well, can you sustain that while also adding the volume, much like a volume shooter does from the 3-point line? His numbers will come down because he's shooting a lot. The corner 3 power forward that only has to take a 3 every once in a while when he's wide open, he's going to shoot a high percentage most likely. So anyways, Marvin Mims, he's the one that, again, was the spark that lit the flame for that big run. So he gets my offensive. Defensive, got to be Danny Stutzman. We've seen him go from talented freshman to real just physical leader of the defense. When he was hitting with an attitude. We see a ball go through his hands last week that, he'd love to have back. He gets the sack this week, gets up, lets out a big roar. He's really coming into his own again. Led the league in tackle, or led the game in tackles. Believe he had 12. So yeah, those are my low hanging fruit offensive and defensive MVPs.
Yeah, I'll start defensively. I'm going to go Grimes. I'm partial. If it's on the defensive front, the trenches, I'm probably always going to start there. I've always been that way. Part of the reason why Todd Bates, Miguel Chavez, I've been like singing to the hills since they got hired, that those were home run hires. Just love them. So yeah, Reggie Grimes, he's off to an incredible start to the season. I mean, that guy's playing at as high of a level as any edge, defensive end, anybody in the trenches right now, right? Like he's playing at that level. Offensively, I was going to go Marvin Mims as well, because that is the easy answer, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to go his counterpart, which is Dillon Gabriel. And I get it. Not everything was perfect, but at the same time, the way I look at this, he's still building up a chemistry with all these guys, right? And the offensive line wasn't 100% perfect. So when I look at Dillon Gabriel, I look at what he allows this offense to do, And that's where I think everything gets really exciting. Once that deep ball connection is there completely, man, they are going to be so difficult to stop because it's not just Marvin Mims for Oklahoma in the wide receiver room, right? Like, I think it's easy to forget because of how good Marvin Mims is. Theo Weiss is a dude as well, right? Like, all the ability in the world. Then you have Jaleel Farouk, who people around the program, including the gentleman sitting right in front of me, remain incredibly high on, not to mention some of the freshmen y'all got that are unreal, right? So once everything really comes together for this offense, whether that be in a few weeks, whenever it is, I'm just so excited to see what Dillon Gabriel is going to look like. So that is a little bit from the game, but also a projection pick for me.
Right. And to touch on Dillon Gabriel quick before we hear your MVPs, JP, it's with Dillon, it's interesting because we're seeing a little bit of scuttlebutt on Twitter of people saying, oh man, Dillon's not that dude. He's not. It's an Oklahoma problem for sure. We had, being the quarterback at Oklahoma means Heisman winner, number one pick, NFL success, all this kind of stuff. Like, that's what it means. So when people see a guy like Dillon come in and you don't see 400 yards passing with 5 touchdowns, you don't see these video game numbers, they're like, oh, he must not be the guy. Here's the thing. He takes care of the ball, 0 turnovers. He had 75% completion with about 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. And for some reason that's I don't know if he's him. Really?
That's a great problem to have.
But that's how crazy the standards have gotten for OU football. And I get the idea of, Oklahoma, the standard, we just got to get better and better and better. But I get it. I totally get it. But it's okay that he's not Baker or Kyler, but he doesn't have to be because the defense actually knows how to play defense now. And also I compared him earlier on the radio. I said, so people are used to like Caleb Williams last year. Caleb has a high ceiling, sure, but Caleb's a Ferrari. You see a lot of them wrapped around telephone poles. Sure, they can go fast. Sure, driven by the right person can be fine and fast and fun and all that flashy and all exotic colors and all that kind of stuff you want to see at the car show. That's all good and dandy. But they sometimes get you wrapped around a pole. Dillon Gabriel, he's that fully loaded minivan, baby. He's going to get you there safely, comfortably, efficiently. And that's what you'd rather have, for the long run road trip type situations. Get the family there safely. It doesn't always have to be the flashiest. Sometimes the only reason we saw it be flashy is because we needed it to be flashy. We haven't needed Dillon to be flashy, and that's a good thing. That should be celebrated. And he knows the offense better than anybody. He's been in it. He can trigger it. And a lot of the reasons that we're scoring what we are now is because he has a great handle on the offense. He's not getting phased. He knows the signals. He knows the calls. And that's why I think going to Nebraska, when it's going to be extremely loud, it will not matter because this is a guy that knows this offense. He's not having to remember calls. He's not having to remember anything. He is in complete control out there. And maybe it's the Hawaiian, just easy, cool, laid back kind of guy, but that guy doesn't look like he sweats. So,
Ice.
Yeah. So go ahead with your MVPs. I just had to defend Dillon real quick.
Yeah, no, my offensive MVP, and I might catch a little heat from my brother on this one. Marcus Major.
I knew it. That's all right. He's top 3, I guess. One shimmy, and he's all the way up into the top 3 now.
He's looking good, and I don't think here's the skinny guys, and I think Trav would tell you guys this. It was never that Trav ever thought Marcus Major, and even myself, is not good, does not have the talent. I think it was that we have not seen it consistently was the problem.
Year 4.
Now
we're here, year 4.
If he continues, what he's looked like and is able to get a couple more carries, whether he gets to be level with Eric Gray or even more, man, I don't know. But the move he put on the guy at the 10-yard, I didn't know he had that in him. I thought he was about to power over him for
The
a first
defender
down.
you know what? The defender didn't know it either because it's never
Exactly.
been on tape. Because it's never been on tape. Because it's the first time in 4 years that he's done it.
I needed our guy Mr. Go 30 to make a video about that one. I know he wouldn't.
It was
He wouldn't be that
a beautiful move. It was a beautiful move. No
not
doubt
really
about
an
it.
athlete. Piss down your leg. but no, like I thought he played a great game. He was physical running the ball. He had 2 touchdowns. Looked really good. So that's probably my offensive MVP. Obviously, I would have said Marvin Mims too, but you took it. So defensive
Right.
MVP, Billy Bowman as well. If I'm not going to say Danny Stutzman, I mean Billy Bowman's been super consistent. He had the second most tackles on the team, I believe. Him and Danny are right next. Danny has 21, and Billy has 20. So I mean they're both playing at a really high level
Somebody's
right
been
now.
doing their reading. That's good.
Yeah. Hey, um, but they're both playing at a really high level right now. But Billy, I think, I think once we see some of this, not as vanilla on the defensive side, you might see him get some sacks. You might see him, maybe start to intercept a couple balls too. That'd be cool to see. Maybe if he can get 4 to 5 this year, it'd be awesome. But even in the return game, and I know we're talking about defense, but we talked about it last week. He's electric, and he's gonna break one. And what do you have? Was it like 40 yards or something like that?
Yeah.
On Saturday. So yeah, that's mine though. Those two.
He
Yeah,
could legit play
absolutely.
offense.
Well, and he did obviously at Denton Ryan
Yeah.
and played both ways. And the idea, right, was to just get him to Norman and get him on the field as quickly as they could.
Mhm.
But we just didn't have the depth in the secondary, so he ended up playing all 5 positions as a true freshman. Now they've kept him, at safety, and he's really blossoming very nicely. He is one to really blossom under the new exotic looks that we see as, again, the layers kind of keep on getting added to Brent Venables, at least being showing his cards a bit. So I think because right now, when you stay vanilla, you're not bringing pressure, right? You're just bringing your front 4.
Yeah.
So those are the guys that are going to rack up the sacks because nobody else is coming towards the quarterback for the most part, unless you get like a Stutzman that's pursuing a run from the opposite side, and that's how he caught him. But when you start to see corner blitzes, when you start to see the safeties come down and blitz, when you start to see all that, that's when you'll start seeing sack numbers start to be divvied out a bit more, and you'll start to see a little more turnover because you can disguise the look so much pre-snap, and then you get that miscommunication. All of a sudden, you make them make a bad decision. Bad decision turns into 6 the other way. That's just how it works. But yeah, I'll tell you, Marcus Major looked good. He is a power back. He showed a move there, but he should be getting the ball when we're in the red zone. There's no doubt about it. He's earned that. He needs to get the ball in the red zone. Eric Gray still, he's still the number 1 guy because of what he can do. He ripped off the 44-yarder. I think that until you get to the 20, leave Eric Gray in the backfield because it opens up what you can do, like from a play calling perspective. You can split him out into the slot. You can throw it to him out of the backfield. When you bring Marcus Major in, you limit what your flexibility, at least the looks that you can give. You become a little bit more predictable. Now, it doesn't matter if you're predictable if nobody can stop it. And sometimes that's how it is with Marcus Major on the goal line. What I'm wondering is when we continue to, again, pull out some stuff that we see against better teams, when's the first time that we see Davis Bevel in the Bevdozer package, trucking a linebacker for a short yardage gain? I think that's coming because it should.
What a better time than this weekend?
Tell you what, if we need to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm still not convinced that we'll need to let much out of the bag against the Huskers.
I don't think y'all will.
So I know somebody said something about the look of shock I just had in my face. I just got an email real quick before we move on. So we host an event, cross country event huge at my school every year called the Lion Stampede. So I'm going to be at that while watching the game. But anyways, last year we had 396 kids. Like it's elementary, junior high, huge. Okay, this year we're gonna have 700,
Hey,
which is great. But I'm freaking out internally because of
no,
the
you good?
logistical nightmare that parking is. Because we already have parking issues last year, and we're thinking, oh, we could have 450 kids. That's what we thought. And then my cross country coach just emailed me, oh, it's like 700. I'm like, oh, okay. So my next 2 days are going to be fun. Anyways, let's move on to real quick, Trav. Flashing lights. I wanted to get your opinion, and I know you told me personally, but tell everybody else here, maybe that wasn't at the game. How impressive were the LED lights in person? And is that something you think is going to be used as a recruiting factor moving forward?
Oh, absolutely. When I saw I was never one to really, subscribe to I don't like 11 a.m. kickoffs. I don't like 2:30. I don't like, whatever, right? Like game game times never really mattered much to me outside of recruiting. I know it's easier to get high school recruits that play on Fridays to a game that doesn't start at 11 a.m. because they have to be like when I went on visit with Gentry, like we had to be, at the Switzer Center by 9 a.m. That's tough if you're trying to bring guys in from Florida, Tech, like Houston area, Northeast where we've been recruiting, California. Like it's really tough to get that done if they're not getting home from their high school game until 10, 11 at night. And then they've got to be, in 10 hours time, they've got to be at the Switzer Center. So, of course, that's the only negative for me for 11. Otherwise, I kind of like the 11 a.m. start time, like our boy Josh does. So it's it got me really excited to see the Kansas State game was kicking off at 7 because now it's like screw it. We get the LEDs. I want every game to be a night game. I don't care. I'll do post game radio until midnight every game. I do not care because it was that cool. Like it was the most that third quarter was the most fun I've ever had at an OU game at home. I mean, there have been some fun against bigger opponents. There have been some big time plays, but sustained fun for a whole quarter because there's enjoyment like from your team playing well against a good team. There's that like, oh, I like what I see, but just general like joy from everybody in the stands, people high fiving, people fist bumping, people raising the roof. I mean, just dancing, everything. Like it was legitimately a party, and the recruits loved it. I talked to Lee that night, actually next morning, that night. I think it was late that night, and she was like, "Oh yeah, the recruits, absolutely loved it. It was such a fun atmosphere in there, and yeah, I think we'll continue to expand on it. Like anything, it's the first time doing it. You got to see what songs are really hitting. You got to see, what light combinations are hitting. You got to get your timing right. Here's the thing. It's going to be tough because they drop the lights right out after a score. There's going to be a scenario where they drop the lights after a called touchdown and start all the fireworks and all the whatever, and it's going to be like reviewed, and it's going to be real awkward because they're going to have to be like, oh, stop the show, hold on, like we got to review whether it was in, and then like they'll you know call it like confirm it a touchdown. Do you restart the party? Do you drop the lights again? So there will be a bit of awkwardness there, but totally worth it. To answer DGD's quick question, yes, we were playing SMU. Georgia, they scheduled Ball State. So, tomato, tomato, I guess.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to get to this real quick. Ty, for you, since you're here with us, I figure we might as well talk about it. A little bit of a scare on 40 acres. Was this to you, and I probably already know where you're going with this, was this Bama playing terribly? And I think we all say, yeah. Um, But do you also feel like Texas fans should legitimately have hope after what they saw on Saturday in Austin?
So I always think back to that. I forget the brand of the commercial, but it's for the taco shells, right? And it's when they're discussing whether or not they're going to have soft or hard tacos, and the little girl goes, "Por qué no los dos?"
Yeah.
Right?
Why not
Like
both?
that's
Okay,
kind
no,
of the answer to this question right here. There's no question Alabama shot themselves in the foot. Will Anderson affected that game in a negative way for a large portion of it, and that's just not something we see from a player that's as cerebral as Will Anderson, right? You have a guy hit the ground, he tackles him, and he talked about it. He said, "Oh, well, I in an NFL they're not down, so I didn't know." You're a junior, right? You knew, right? It's just frustrations were high. So Alabama did everything they could to give this game away from a play calling perspective to a penalties perspective. I don't know the exact rate. I have it somewhere in my notebook, but the vast majority of our snaps are happening with less than 5 seconds left on the play clock. If you have an offensive line that's already struggling, that already struggles in one-on-one matchups, or is still having a difficult time understanding their job, giving the defense the snap count is never going to be advantageous to success. And that's exactly what Bill O'Brien chooses to do. And this is something unique about
For the
Alabama.
second year in a row.
For the second year in a row. The only reason our offense has clicked is because we have a legitimate magician at quarterback that we need to be doing a lot more for. One thing interesting about Bama's offense, there's only like 10 to 15 plays, right? It's not this giant playbook. There's only a few different plays. Everything is based out of that. On Saturday, it was so tough because you saw what a creative play caller looks like compared to a guy that's running the same offense from 2 years ago, and you can see how flat the offense looks with Bill O'Brien as compared to what it looked like for Steve Sarkisian. It is real tough to watch a lot of the times. And I can't blame it all on Bill O'Brien because we just have guys who are not executing, right? And it reminded me a lot of the national championship. One thing I've always talked about. People have asked me, do I blame Jameson going down for us losing the national championship? No, absolutely not, because plays were there to be made and Georgia made the plays and we didn't. That's why we lost the national championship, because Georgia beat us. Simple as that. Texas almost beat us, even though we almost beat ourselves, because the plays were there to be made and Bama almost didn't make them. So look, I'm going to be honest. Texas, they played a great game. Whether that translates to the rest of the season, we'll see. Something Oklahoma fans talk about, playing Alabama is a lot of teams' Super Bowl, right? Like, we're going to get your best shot. There's no doubt about it, right? Scouts are watching that game at an unbelievable rate. It was the most watched game in Fox college football history. So people are going to show up and play us hard. So Texas does have something to be excited about, but at the same time, Alabama's got a lot to fix because they're a much better team than they showed on Saturday.
I think what we're seeing a little bit of, specifically to Bill O'Brien, is kind of the real life embodiment of everybody's joke about Alabama. Oh, well, shit, with that talent, I could coach this team to a national title. Like he's trying to see if that narrative is true by being like, hey, I've got better players than everybody. How badly can I screw up the play calling and the execution and still get to a national title? It's like it's almost like he's bored, like he's testing how bad he can really be and still win. It's truly wild.
You know what's so crazy about that too? Go back and watch the Auburn game, go and watch the Texas game. The parallels in it are a little bit crazy. The reason I bring that up, for the vast majority of that game, our offensive line is struggling. And Bill, if you look at 90% of the routes, they're all downfield, like intermediate to deep concepts. And they're all stacked on top of each other. It's not even creative the way they're putting it together. But the last 2 drives of the game, all of a sudden we figure out, hey, they're not covering us underneath. So quick outs and slants, and we drive down the field in an instant's notice and get the points when we need them. So it's like, why are we waiting until it's necessary to show up with a game plan?
Right. And you know what, there was something poetic, and I don't prey on people's downfall too much. I know that Jacob thinks I prey on Marcus Majors, and I promise you that I don't. But the Texas defensive back that had Bryce Young dead to rights and whiffed on him, and then Bryce Young scrambled for 19 yards to set up the game winner. That person used to be committed to Oklahoma. He decommitted from Oklahoma to go to Ohio State, and then ended up transferring to Texas. So for me, it was a little sweet seeing, that guy. Oh, could have been coached up by somebody that would have showed you how to make that tackle, but guess not.
Yeah, and Jimmy asked the question, why didn't Jace get more carries? Jimmy, that's something we're trying to figure out. And that's exactly what we're talking about. We're pushing the Texas defensive front around, a defensive front that showed up to play. I'm not going to take anything away from Texas because they repeatedly punched Bama in the mouth, and Bama did not respond until necessary, right? So I'm not going to take anything away from them. But it's that kind of stuff right there. Jacob says he got hurt. He did. He hurt his neck a little bit, but he was ready to go. His mom was actually tweeting like, hey, he's good to go. He's ready to go back in. We didn't run hardly anything after the opening few sequences, whether Gibbs, Roydell Williams, Trey Sanders, Jace, who knows?
There's one, and I know we're about to start talking about Nebraska, but there's a myth that we need to discuss. First of all, Jake, I said Marcus Majors, as in Marcus Majors' downfall. It's possessive. You had an apostrophe S on the back of it. I wasn't calling him Marcus
love the English lesson.
Majors. So it was contextual.
Hey, he's a journalist now. So,
but yeah, far from it. I'm about as much of a journalist as I am a member of the media, both very, very loosely. But there's a narrative that Texas recruiting, or lack thereof, is why Nebraska has fallen off. I personally don't subscribe to that theory because in the Big Eight, they were in the Big Eight for 35 years. They won 4 national titles and went to like 30 bowls in those 35 years. None of the teams in the Big Eight were in Texas. And so they didn't have Texas recruiting when they were at their absolute peak. And then they're in the Big 12 for a little while. They win the one in 1997, but largely with obviously 1995 Big Eight players, right? So they win in 1997, and then they don't win another title, and then they leave. But when they leave the Big 12, now it's because they don't get Texas players. But they spent the most successful 3.5 decades of their entire program's history not getting Texas players. So there's something else going on with Nebraska that's not just the fact that they're not getting Texas players. It's always a little bit more, right? It's always culturally, it's always maybe it's because they're sponsored by Adidas. I don't know. I like that hat, but football team, they gotta come with it with Jordan or something like that. But at least Nike. Jeez. So a lot of different options.
I love that.
But the Texas thing is always confused me because in the Big Eight, they never pulled from Texas. And yet or at least didn't have issue pulling from Texas. And they were going against a little more competitive teams. Texas was better at the time. Oklahoma was winning titles like in that area, if you're going to talk about the recruiting. So it's something else. Oh, my mom's on it. Ha!
Get him, Mama Sue.
That's right.
You love to see it.
Yeah. No, I was wondering that, Trav. And I'm glad you clarified that, at least that, specifically Nebraska had success before they were in the Big 12, and they could say
nearly all of their success was before
Texas
the Big 12.
And everything like that. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, their highest levels of success were all before the Big 12. Again, I know 1997 they were in the Big 12, but it was Big 8 players.
Yeah.
Y'all remember Eric Crouch?
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
That's a throwback, isn't it?
Oh man, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
I
was
just
like,
always
dude,
think to that Nebraska, and I think to the Nebraska now, and I'm like, how far you've slid, my
wow.
word.
I think, to be honest, I think that I think they have massive, massive self-esteem issues because what we're hearing when I was up in Omaha covering College World Series, it was I was talking with parents of players that play for Nebraska, and I kept on saying, like, you guys deserve better. Well, what are we going to do if we get rid of Scott? How can we fire Scott Frost? Who are we going to get? Who would come here? Like,
Anybody.
dog, y'all need to look at your trophy case. Like,
Yeah.
y'all need to look. Like, you got the money.
Mm,
You're the only university in that whole state, basically, that's worth a damn. You're letting Nebraska talent. Hell, we're about to pull our third tight end in 2 years from Nebraska. I mean, we're getting 2 in this class from there. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's like I think they just have deep-rooted self-esteem issues that they don't think they deserve, to get a good coach. They don't think they should go try and get, a Luke Fickell, Matt Campbell, like these kind of guys. Here, with that Big 10 contract, you can go pull people from the Pac-12, from the Big 12, things like that. I mean, your school is going to be making an inordinate amount of money for being part of the Big 10. And I don't know. I just think it's like I said, I think they don't realize what they deserve because they just think, oh, who would ever want to come coach here?
They can take Bill O'Brien.
Straight trade, Scott Frost, offensive coordinator.
Why not? Why not?
Why not, right?
I've seen all I need to see. I've seen
any
all I need to see.
any bum can coach those guys to a national championship, right?
anybody?
No. No.
All right,
Yeah.
score predictions. Go ahead. I'll let you guys start first with your score predictions. OU versus Nebraska.
You want me to kick this off? I'll kick it off, I suppose.
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna be a little bit bold. I'm gonna go OU by 17. Right? I think that Nebraska has nothing to lose. I'm a little bit of a nerd, right? So I always think back to Sun Tzu, The Art of War. The last place you want to leave your opponent is with no out. Nebraska has no out, right? The only way for them to go is through OU. Now, will they be able to do it? No, they're not going to be able to do it. But I think Oklahoma is going to do, like we talked about earlier, just enough to get out of here with a win comfortably and convincingly. I don't think Nebraska, like Jimmy says, 23 points for Nebraska. I don't see Nebraska scoring that many points. I just don't. I think 13 points, about what Jared says and Brandon says, that's about what I think they're going to be at. So I see this as a 17-point victory, Oklahoma, and I just don't see Nebraska being able to generate much.
JP?
Yeah, I I am gonna probably go 14, maybe 2 touchdowns for Nebraska, and I'll go 35 for OU, 35-14, so 21-point wins, a little bit more than you. Hoping that I think our defense is going to be solid. Casey's a good quarterback. He'll make some plays and everything like that, and we'll have to definitely have a spy on him. Like we didn't really have one. Didn't seem like for a little bit, or somebody maybe forgot or during Kent State for Schlee as he was running all over the place. But they only had scored 3 points, so that's what matters in the end. So just looking forward to that, and I think OU's running game should hopefully look better. Hopefully, the offensive line getting Wanya Morris back will look better as far as that goes. And Eric Gray and Marcus Major have a good day.
Yep. So Nebraska is ranked 115th in the country in rushing defense. I think we should be able to run the ball very effectively, but I do think that it's going to stretch some possessions a little bit more I think, and my guesses on radio this week have been 31-13. I think it's an 18-point win. I think we stay at that 13 threshold for the defense. I think there is going to be a focus to run the ball. So I think we'll do so effectively. With Casey Thompson, he's got talent for sure, but he looks a little bit different without Bijan Robinson behind him and Xavier Worthy split out wide. Those guys can make a lot of things look different. Defenses have to load the box against Bijan Robinson. You know, you're going to have open, receivers downfield for him to throw to when you have Bijan back there. When you have Xavier Worthy, he will get it open no matter what. So he doesn't have either of those two players at Nebraska, and you're seeing it with some mistakes. He's thrown for 4 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. So he is prone to giving the ball to the other team. Of course, we saw that one of those was a tipped ball. I get it, but still shows up on your stats, right? So with that, I had a hard time sticking down at 31 because that would mean we'd score the same amount as Northwestern and we would score less than Georgia Southern. I personally think we have better offenses than both of those teams. I don't think that's the hottest take you've ever heard me dish out on this show. But I do think 31-13 is safe. It is still a cover. And to your point, Ty, on the nothing to lose, part of the reason they have nothing to lose is because they keep losing.
Yeah.
So like at a certain point, like Kansas has had nothing to lose for a large part of the last decade. And yet all they could beat was Texas. Like now, I mean, you look up and Kansas actually leads the nation in scoring and they're atop the Big 12 since they're the only team that has a conference win. But it's just a weird year. But there are a lot of teams that are bad that have nothing to lose because they're bad. You know what I mean? So with that, I think we do see a slightly inspired team playing under Mickey Joseph. But for all we heard from national folks, especially, that, oh, man, OU, new coach, it's going to be interesting to, to see how this goes with the new coach. Mickey Joseph in these conversations has been treating as an automatic upgrade. They'll just be better now with him, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because he has really no head coaching experience. He has I think 1 year at Langston, like a decade ago.
It's more of an indictment on Frost.
Yeah, but I think it's also one of these things like Frost was bad, but sometimes once you don't like a guy, you think he's worse than he ever was. Scott Frost was in 1-score games against some of the best teams in the country last year. Couldn't get it done. And structurally and foundationally and culturally, he was a mess. But to stick with all of that same culture, you can't fix culture in 7 days.
Oh, no doubt.
You can't fix foundation in 7 days. You can't fix strength and conditioning in 7 days. You can't fix a roster in 7 days. You can't fix schemes in 7 days. You can't fix anything in 7 days. So with this team, I think they were already going to be motivated because it's the biggest game on their non-con. So it's not like Nebraska players were like, oh man, like this OU game I really don't care about, but now Mickey Joseph wants to have me run through a wall. Like if you didn't want to run through a wall playing Oklahoma anyways, then you're not much of a competitor. So people calling this a trap game. We've had this Nebraska game circled since the day it got announced. Going to Lincoln, man. We've been planning this thing forever. So Kent State was a trap game, and we saw that in the first half. Came out a little flat, but I do think, JP, you brought up the point of having a spy on Casey Thompson. I do think it's good that Kent State showed us a lot of looks where the quarterback, he was their leading rusher. So I think he showed us a lot of looks. He put it on film. So, that's something that can be corrected against Casey Thompson a week ahead of time. So it's funny because as I describe it, I feel like I'm describing a bigger blowout than I picked, but I'm still going to stick with 31-13.
we gotta be safe because especially me because last year Ty and I get last year was last year for OU, right? But man, I got burnt every week on my predictions. I'd be like, oh, 52-7. Like
Yeah,
we
and I caught a little bit of heat last year for the opposite reason. Just because after Tulane, I remember you and I talked, and I was like, "Look, I'm not saying I'm out on OU. I'm saying something doesn't look right. Like
you were
something is fundamentally not the way it should be, and we never could put our finger on it. Fast forward, now everybody knows, right?
yeah,
Fast now, the reason is
5,000%
plain
correct.
as day, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like I think this is becoming a little bit of a we just hate Scott Frost so much because he was so bad, so bad, so bad. We don't remember a lot of like I said, the good times of Scott Frost. Unfortunately, his good times were losing still, but one score games to top 10 teams, even the ones not named Oklahoma, like close games, and then now it's that dude was trash. Anything's an upgrade. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see if Mickey Joseph can just wave his magic wand and all of a sudden they're just more talented and stronger and faster and all that because I don't see it coming.
Yeah.
No, if I may, there are two comments I've seen I'd like to address. One, Jason Patton says Nebraska wasn't good before Scott Frost. You're 100% right, but statistically, he is by far and about their worst head coach through the first opening sequences Nebraska has ever had. Like it was something. I did it in the thing. If he was to win his next 50 games in a row without dropping one game, he would still have 4 more losses than Bo Pelini and 1 less win than Bo Pelini.
Bo Pelini never had less than 9 wins in a season.
Yeah.
Mike Riley was better.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. So
99% of college football fans couldn't name Mike Riley as a coach.
yeah. It's a little wild. And I do agree with you a lot, Travis. I think Frost gets a lot of crap, and that's why I was a little bit like curious about what Nebraska was going to be this year, just because you don't know with the talent they had to what they could do, and now we see it's just not working. But the other thing, I've seen some people talking about the SEC, and there's just one thing I wanted to throw in there because Sooner was saying like talking to DGD, and they're saying who could compete in the SEC championship game. I'm not going to write Bama off just yet, Sooner Cowboy, because last year we almost did the same exact thing against Florida, right? Bama played Florida close. And then after that, even a lot of people were saying, oh, well, they're going to get blown out by Georgia in the SEC championship game. And that's just not what happened. So, hey, you're not going to hear any argument from me that they have got worlds to work on before they're on Georgia's level right now, because Georgia's coming out with a different type of prerogative.
Right. Yeah. Georgia seems hyper focused on the idea of not having a championship hangover. I mean, hyper focused.
Yeah.
They look good. All right, guys.
Which sometimes can make you press, but they're not pressing. They could have beat Oregon by 100.
They looked so good against Oregon.
Yeah, they looked unreal. Just especially on defense. I mean, obviously Kirby Smart's a defensive head coach, but they didn't lose a drip with Dan Lanning moving on to Oregon. Didn't look like at all. Hey, let's do our patented game, this or that. It's the game where I ask you put two things up and ask you to decide which one and kind of give a little bit of a dissertation as to why. Starting off, do our OU players one first. Joaquin Iglesias or Lee Morris? Now, for you, some of you younger Sooners fans, Joaquin Iglesias was a beast back in the day, okay? If you don't know, ask your mama.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Joaquin Iglesias because speaking of asking your mama, I sat by his parents at the 2009 national title game, and they were a delight. So I think to be, diplomatic, I will go with the parents, Joaquin Iglesias, and obviously it was my really my favorite receiver on that team too. He was awesome. So, yeah, I'm gonna go Joaquin Iglesias.
I'm gonna go Iglesias as well, just because I have a lot of, for whatever reason, he's an Oklahoma Sooner player who, like, the second you put his name up there, it was almost just like a wave of nostalgia, right? Like, hit me, and I just remembered. So yeah, I'm gonna go Joaquin Iglesias just because that was a blast from the past when I saw that name.
Yeah, and he got overshadowed by, and rightfully so, by Mark Clayton. I mean, both were great, but I just figured, that that'd be a good little pairing. I was trying to decide who I'd pair with him, and Lee Morris consistently made big plays for OU in 2018 specifically, and even in 2019. Just seemed like everything he caught was touchdowns and played his way into a
Yeah,
scholarship.
mathematically, Lee Morris is one of the more fascinating Sooners of the last couple decades. All he did was score touchdowns.
That's
It was
it.
almost a guarantee. That guy touches it, he's scoring.
Yes, Malcolm Kelly. My bad. Wrong. Got my
Wrong
tongue
generation.
twisted a little bit. Not Mark Clayton, but yeah, I'd probably go Joaquin Iglesias too. Was definitely a monster. All right, next, Maserati or a Bentley? Which one would you rather drive? The reason this question came up for me is because I had two parents with first graders pull up in a Maserati and a Bentley back to back days, and me and my sister AD looking at each other like, "What you do?"
Yeah, how expensive is your school? Good God.
Well, it's really not that crazy. Like, a lot of people don't drive cars like that. So we was both like, you wanna join the Boost Club?
Right, exactly. Jeez. I'm going to go. What's funny is my current business partner has a Maserati. My former business partner has a Bentley. And I prefer the Bentley, the Continental GTS, for the S for the speed. Um, was great. We actually took the Bentley down to the Champ U barbecue. You've seen a lot of the recruits photographed in front of it. It's the white one. Had some fun times in that car, driving it around the field and all. It's so I've got to take the car that I drove on the field at Gaylord Memorial.
Yeah, I got to go Bentley for two reasons. So, first and foremost, when I had graduated high school, I've told both of you, I grew up on the horse ranch, right? My dad would travel around the world judging horse shows. So, he got a call right when I was about to graduate my senior year of high school. And he's like, okay, this gentleman from Ireland said, we're putting together a horse show in England, and then there's going to be one in Ireland. We need you to come judge. And my dad was trying to bring me. Well, they ended up cutting a deal that they would pay for my plane ticket to go to England and Ireland so long as I worked at the horse show. And me graduating high school, I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. So when we get to Ireland, the guy, it's a dude who's from Philly who moved out to Ireland and has more money than anybody in the world knows what to do with it. He takes us down in his garage and he's got like 5 different Ferraris, 5 different Bentleys, and he just points to me and says, which one do you want to take for a drive? And this thing was the steering wheel on the right. Like, it was awesome. So yeah, I got to drive the Bentley and that thing was
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
fast. The other reason not Maserati is, as much as they're beautiful cars, I just remember working at the country club, and every time they'd throw me the keys to the Maserati to be like, hey, go park this, I would have just like an anxiety attack because I'm like, I'm a broke college student. Don't do this to me, man. Like, I can't afford anything in this car. Just please pass it to one of the kids that have money. I don't. Like, get this away from me.
That's what I ain't got
That's
nothing to pay.
awesome.
If I mess anything up, all I got is 2 pennies to my name. Please don't hurt me. Um, I'm probably gonna go with Maserati. I like the way the Bentleys look, um, but I've been in a Maserati, not driven one. I wish I had driven one, but just a good experience for me personally. Um, yeah, yeah, Maserati for sure. For
Now, I'm
me.
not going to tell y'all where to find this, right? But Silent talked about the Plaid Tesla. There's a video of me on YouTube launching a Plaid Tesla. We're sitting on the middle of a busy road in New York, and there's cars, like you can see in the background, coming up on me, and we just launch it. And Before I knew it, we were going at about 145 miles an hour, and that car was yawning. That thing is wild. 1.90 to 60. It's different.
Yeah, they're insane.
It's a fact. Chrysler 300 was my dream car when I was like 8. I was like, man, I'm gonna get a Chrysler 300 one day.
Oh,
Playing Midnight Club Dub Edition.
right.
Man. All right, last one. Smoked turkey, and we're going a little bit Thanksgiving here. Or deep fried turkey. Which one would you rather have? Trav, let's start with you, our food connoisseur.
Oh man. I think I got to go deep fried. I know that's against the brand and everything about smoked, but I'm going fried. Like all the crispy skin and everything like that. We typically do one of each Thanksgiving. We get the turkey fryer outside, and then my dad does one smoked. But yeah, I think I go fried. But I'm always a dark meat guy when it comes to turkey. Always dark meat, not the white meat.
Yes,
a man of culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it kills me. But I'm the same way. Anything else, it's like smoked for me, right? Like I got a little pellet smoker out here, something that does the work for me, and I get to pretend like I'm Chef Ramsay when I bring the food to my fiance, and everybody's happy, right? She doesn't know. I get to pretend like it's me. It all works out. But with turkey particularly, man, I don't know what it is. I like a smoked turkey, but that deep fried turkey, it's just different. That's the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the deep fried turkey it is different, that's for sure. But I'll take a good smoked turkey with some Cajun in it. Little.
Yeah, I'm not turning any down.
For sure.
I've just got preference. That's all.
Gun to your head, had to choose.
Yeah.
I get it. Deep fried turkey for me too. All right, guys. Well, we're out of time this week. Don't have time for a bunch of questions, but we'll rectify that next week. Ty, man, we appreciate you being on. Trav, before we go, tell people where they can find you, because this is going to be the first road trip for you of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So those of you that are making the trip up to Lincoln, we will actually be in Omaha Friday. We'll be doing radio from the session room, which is one block west of the baseball field, Charles Schwab, where Oklahoma competed in the College World Series. So one block west of that will be 12 to 6. And then Boomer Bash will be 6 to 8. But game day, we will be going to, we'll be in a parking lot by the stadium, outside Memorial Stadium in Lincoln. We'll be doing 2 hours from 8 to 10. We will have Hillbilly Vegas with us playing acoustic, all plugged in. It's going to be, a little party with some radio going on, going to be a blast. And then afterwards, we'll do 2 hours of radio after the game in Lincoln. And if you're out, come by and say hi. If not, if you just want to listen and call in and give us your thoughts on the game, the KREF app. Download the KREF app. You should have it already, but KREF, KREF in the App Store. It's got the logo of the little radio signal guy doing this. So really easy to find. So yeah, and those of you that are OU Insider VIP members, I did have my second feature published there today. I'm doing my weekly article called "Cooking with Grill Boy," so that's been a lot of fun. Really enjoying that. So give that a read, and that's about it.
Ty, where can they find you, man? Let them know.
Yeah, so you can find me at Around the Table Sports on YouTube. I have a negative life, so I'm going to be talking college football, watching college football. That's about the extent of my day. So you just hit me up on Twitter, and I'll talk college football with you all day.
Absolutely. And then before I leave, I promised them I would do this. Born and bred has been releasing a couple of these dope. I mean, dope.
Those things are
trading
sick.
cards. They sent some
Nice.
to Trav and I and a couple other big time Sooners accounts that we're just blessed with. So, man, if you have not seen these, make sure you go and follow Born and Bred on Twitter. Go look. They have Ethan Downs and this is Marcus Stripling. They have also the holographic card that's in Amaya's room right now because she pushed that product initially. But yeah, these are dope, amazing. They send personalized cards to you. They do a great job. So make sure that you go ahead and look at it. I know I'm looking forward to getting more and being able to kind of collect them. And they're signed, by the way. Can't tell this. It's an authentic signature.
They come in this nice package.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, they come in the pack, huh?
Oh yeah.
They come in the pack, huh?
Man,
That's tough.
they're pretty
No,
sick. The
they
design
did a great job with them. I just happened to have my backpack next to me that had mine in them. So
So
Dang.
cool.
Bang. Perfect timing. All right, guys, with no further ado, we're gonna go ahead and head out of here. We'll see you next week. Hopefully we're talking about a big win in Lincoln over the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And then Ty, who's been playing?
Oh, we're playing Louisiana Monroe this weekend.
Oh, yeah, pish posh. We'll be all right.
careful.
Hey. No, Saban already gave his rant this week,
Careful.
Andy. I don't
They
know if
got
you
you
saw it.
before.
But someone said something to the effect of like, "Oh, y'all are gonna crush them," and Saban went ballistic, just like, "Oh, we respect every opponent on the schedule. We almost lost this weekend," and I was like, "Oh yeah. Okay."
Oh,
That's
man.
amazing.
All right, y'all. We appreciate y'all. Ty, appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on.
Boomer.